If I had one word to describe the Efteling, it would be immersive. This is a large fantasy theme park in the southwestern side of the Netherlands. They got their start in 1952 by opening up Fairytale Forest. This features classic grim fairy tales like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, The Frog Prince, Naughty Princess, and so on and so forth. And as it grew in popularity, they started adding rides and attractions, and now it is one of the most popular theme parks in Europe. They're open all year long, so this means you can visit Efteling pretty much whenever you want, even if there's a bunch of snow on the ground. And it gets crowded. If you ask anyone in the Netherlands, they've probably been here. I know the locals take a lot of pride in this place, and it really is a gem. It is a park for all ages, which is why I definitely recommend visiting. I've had the opportunity to go to Efteling twice. I first went in 2018 and then most recently in 2022. And after my first visit to the park, I actually didn't have the highest opinion of it. I think I missed out on a lot of what makes Efteling famous. So if you've been around with the channel for a while, you probably remember the original review I did of this park, and it just didn't feel very complete. Now that I've gone back, I've had the opportunity to experience a lot more, get a well-rounded view of what this park is about, and so today I'm going to be discussing a lot of the different things that you can experience when you come to Efteling, as well as give some recommendations so that you can have the best experience possible. Because right away, I will say this park is probably not for everyone. If you're looking for the biggest, baddest thrill rides, you're probably not going to find them here. For that, I'd recommend visiting the nearby Toverland, Walibi Holland, or Walibi Belgium. This is going to be a much more themed experience, but not in the way that you might expect. I've also been to Europa Park a couple times. Each land of that park is themed to a different country. It's got a very distinct architectural style. You can tell when you're being transported from one area to the next. In Efteling, everything is very cohesive. It's all located in these natural woodlands, trees everywhere. For so much of this park, you can't actually see any of the attractions until you get there. So everything is really a discovery experience. Think of it like a nature park meets a theme park. But once you actually do get to some of those attractions, the attention to detail is incredible. It really transports you to this world of fantasy. So many of these attractions are just full of quirks, especially as someone who's from the United States. I had no idea what was going on in so many of these different rides, but it didn't matter. As you're going through so many of these attractions, they're not even using words. They're telling a story through music and movement, set pieces and design. It's really something special. Before we get into the park, I do have to, of course, mention that Efteling does have many different places that you can stay on site at. As of right now, there's 3 different resorts, with the 4th one on the way with the Efteling Grand Hotel. That'll open in 2024, literally right outside that front entrance. The first time I visited, I actually stayed in a cabin on site and we walked to the park. Really convenient, especially if you traveled a far distance to come here and you're doing multiple days at this park, which Efteling is huge. I think it's very realistic to have 2 days at this property. Clearly, I didn't get the full experience my first time around and I just had 1 day. So when you combine my 2 visits that I had, yeah, that's 2 days at Efteling. I now think I have a pretty good feel of it. Now this entry experience is just fantastic. The front gate of Efteling is absolutely massive. It's called the House of the Five Senses. That's why it has 5 different peaks. It's very gothic and imposing. It's just iconic, you know? I've really never seen anything quite like it. After you walk in, you're greeted with a lake. At the end of the day, they do a nighttime show here called Aquanura. It's created by the same people that did like the Bellagio fountains in Las Vegas. I was really glad that I got to see this, but unfortunately, the park hours prevented us from seeing the show at night. They were closing things down at sunset before it was really dark. So I feel like we didn't get to see the show at its full potential. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely still enjoyed it, but it really made me wish that they were open like an extra hour even. I think would have really helped. But that being said, I will commend them. They do have longer park hours than most theme parks we've seen in Europe. They're closing at like 5 o'clock. So I did appreciate that. Now from here, there's a couple different places that you can visit first. As I mentioned earlier, Efteling is huge, so no matter what, you're gonna have to get your steps in. As you look across the water, you'll see this amazing Arabian theming. Inside is the dark ride Fata Morgana. Really well-themed boat ride. One of my favorite dark rides in Europe, and this is just one of the several that you can find here at Efteling. They're also home to a Vekoma madhouse called Via Volta. Carnival Festival is a cute family dark ride in the style of A Small World at Disney, but without the annoying song, so I like it a lot better. Each section was themed to a different country around the world, which was really cool. Symbolica was my personal favorite dark ride at Efteling. It uses a trackless ride system and takes you a tour of this castle. Stunning facade, even more beautiful interior. The individual rooms of this attraction are just unbelievable. And they use some really good effects, walking through the stairs of the pre-show. This room with the whale breaking the glass and actual water spews out is really good. And at one point, the ride vehicles split off, so depending on which sequence you have, you could go to one of 3 different rooms in the castle. Definitely a must-do in the park. Dreamflight is another amazing dark ride here, and they even have another dark ride on the way. Opening in 2024 is Danse Macabre. It's the first of its kind attraction, replacing a classic dark ride called Spookslot, so I'm excited to see how that one turns out. I know it can rain a lot in the Netherlands, so I think it's really great that they have so many different indoor attractions, and that they're all so well themed. It's probably the best collection of dark rides in Europe, outside of maybe Disneyland Paris. But even then, I think you can make an argument for Efteling having better dark rides. Now, I gotta talk about the thing that made Efteling famous, and that is Fairytale Forest. The main entrance to this area is by Symbolica. You won't really find any rides back there. Think of it like a large walkthrough with lots of different displays. Sometimes this comes in the form of little houses and these static figures. Other times you'll find that these characters have simple movements. They use a lot of really clever tricks for some of these effects. You'll see these dancing red slippers. There's a parrot that'll record your voice and repeat stuff back to you, and of course a different pitch. Towards the end of the walkthrough, if you insert a coin, this donkey will lift up its tail and poop out a coin. Shoots it pretty far, actually. Pretty hilarious. I loved that. There's this amazing talking tree animatronic, one of the more iconic displays in Fairytale Forest. Of course, there's Longneck, another icon of the park. And this whole area is just tucked off in its own little section, so it's very quiet and peaceful. You don't hear any of the other rides in the park going. Really, the only sounds you'll hear is occasionally background music. They're really clever at the way they hide their speakers. It's inside these tiny mushrooms. It's things like that I think is just amazing. They want to keep you immersed in it from start to finish. So absolutely, that is worth your time. It proves that you don't really need to do any attractions to get enjoyment out of this place. I imagine there's a lot of elderly that come here. You might not be doing a bunch of rides. They're just here to take in the environment. And there's still plenty to do here. This park is huge. There's so much to explore. Honestly, it's easy to get lost here. It's a bit of a confusing park layout, but it really is so scenic. Absolutely encapsulates that idea that you're in a fairy tale. At Efteling, they cannot build above the tree line without special permission. In fact, they're only allowed to build rides on just over 10% of the land in the park. The other 90% has to remain untouched. They even have agreements that they won't build attractions in certain areas. Like, I know there's this large pond and there's an island there in the center. They have to leave that area alone as a sort of reserve for water birds, which is very apparent because you'll see birds everywhere. So many different waterways, which makes sense. I mean, yeah, if I was a duck, I'd go hang out at the Efteling too. And anytime they decide to add new attractions here, they have to balance it out by adding more land to the park. That way they can keep those percentages intact. It's a really interesting scenario they have set up here. I had to remind myself at a couple different points that I'm in a theme park because I'd be walking on this pathway and you just don't see anything else. They keep a lot of the big attractions all in one area. So like there you have Baron 1898, Python, Joris and de Draak, De Vliegen Hollander, or the Flying Dutchman. You just pop from one ride to the next. Baron 1898 was my favorite roller coaster in the park. There's already a full separate review of that attraction on this channel. Please go check it out if you want to hear about that. There's also Python. That's probably the most famous roller coaster in the Netherlands. It's one of the best Vekoma loopers in my opinion. They gave it a full retrack. It's extremely smooth. Pulls some pretty good forces too. Joris and de Draak is a GCI dueling coaster. It's an alright ride, definitely not a very extreme wooden coaster. The dueling effect is nice, although on my most recent visit, they are only running one side, which was a shame. Take advantage of that single rider line. People were waiting a long time for this one, but we were able to hop right on because of that. And actually, since my most recent visit, they've put Titan Track on it, so now there's a section that'll be even smoother than before. The Flying Dutchman was a new one for me. It was actually closed during my first visit, and this was really cool. The queue was stunning. It was designed to look like a pirate fishing town. Very much gave me vibes for Pirates of the Caribbean. It was the only roller coaster ever built by Comeback, and just the story and music really add to the atmosphere. I know the Efteling also recently added some new scenes to it, so this ride should be even better now than before. Other roller coasters include Max and Mortis. This replaced their former bobsled coaster, and unfortunately I missed Bob during my first visit, and I missed Max and Mortis during my most recent one. Both attractions were closed when I went, so that's a bit of a shame. It looked cute though. I'd love to do it at some point. Then the last big coaster is Vogelrok. This is a really cool indoor ride. Super long experience and an even longer train. I forgot how many forces this thing pulls. It's got onboard audio. They make it look like you're in space. I remember even graying out once or twice. Underrated ride for sure. And of course you can't help but love that entry experience. I mean, look at this giant bird. I mean, that thing is huge. So they got a solid coaster collection. I mean, as you can see, most everything is family oriented. Baron is probably the most extreme ride here. So that does kind of make you wonder, all right, what could they use in the future? And if I had to pick something, personally, I would go with a more traditional hypercoaster. I have no idea if they are allowed to go that tall. Maybe, but I think even something like Conde Walibi Belgium would work well. Baron is awesome, but it's nothing world class. In my opinion, they don't have that wow ride in terms of thrill. They have the wow factor in terms of theming, and I'm not saying that they need to turn Efteling into a thrill park, but I think if you had just one more thrilling ride that would really help. So we'll have to see if they end up doing something like that. I have no doubt that if they went that route, they would do it right. Besides from the roller coasters, you also find some more classic theme park attractions. They're home to a massive swinging ship. I think it's the biggest in the world. I've certainly never seen a bigger one than this. There's a rapids here called Piranha. I love that they have an intimate observation tower. Those things are so rare. Really cool to watch from the ground level and amazing view at the top. You also find a handful of shows at Efteling. Ravelin is a popular medieval show right by Dreamflight. It involves knights and horses and sword fights, which is really cool because I can't think of any other theme park show that does that. Here in the US, I'm used to seeing like Medieval Times has come to town with their dinner shows. And that's normally something that you'd pay separate for. But here you can just see that show in a theme park. And they even offer an upcharge experience where you can do exactly what Medieval Times does and you get served a 3-course meal during the show. Definitely something I'd love to check out the next time I come back here. And I know there's still so much else here that I haven't covered in this review or haven't shown in this footage. I've really learned from coming here that this park has a lot of repeatability to it. There's more to do here than might meet the eye. And I think that's really the point. They want to keep people coming back. And clearly they're very dedicated to growing this place. There's a couple new things currently in the works. I'm sure more to come. I think if you're looking for a theme park to visit in Europe, this is definitely one to at least consider. As I mentioned earlier, if you're looking for more thrill-based attractions, you'll probably have better luck somewhere else. But this is about as European as it gets, you know? You won't find anything like this in the United States. Everything from these large theming elements down to the minute details, like literally look at the trash cans. Come on, this is awesome. There's so much heart and soul put into this place, which is something I really appreciate. It's a park designed for you to take your time at. It can be as relaxing as you want and also as thrilling as you want. And I think that's where that family appeal comes in. There really is something for everyone. So let me know down in the comments below if you've been to Efteling in the Netherlands. Post any thoughts you have down below. And of course, make sure to stay tuned for more park reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.